Welcome to the Firebelly Social Show. We're focused on talking to food and beverage brands that are on a mission to make the world better.
Hey, everyone. Duncan here with another episode of the Firebelly Social Show, where it is my unique opportunity to talk and hang out with founders and leaders of mission-driven food and beverage brands. And today, we're diving into the world of innovation, craft, and the fast-growing NA category. And I'm so excited to have as a guest today, Jason Davis, who is the founder of Reveland Brewing, a brand quickly gaining attention for its elevated high quality NA beer. Before we get into it, let me give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Firebelly Marketing. At Firebelly, we help purpose-driven food and beverage brands build community, spark engagement, and grow through strategic social media marketing. So if you're ready to turn your social presence into some real momentum, head over to firebellymarketing.com to learn more. So we have a special guest today, Jason Davis. He is the brewer and innovator behind Reveland Brewing and Peralta Beverage, LLC. Jason is former R&D and Innovations Brewer for Berkeley Yeast, where he spent years and years and years experimenting with and perfecting NA beer. He studied brewing science at both Siebel Institute in Chicago and Doemens Academy in Munich, and brings more than a decade of sensory expertise as a national beer judge. And now Jason is channeling all of that, all of his learnings and technical knowledge and creativity and palate mastery into Reveland Brewing, crafting NA beers with depth, character, and real craft credibility. So we're going to explore all of this. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Hey, nice to be here. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Awesome. Hey, Jason, what sparked the idea? How did you get started on Reveland, and why did you get into the NA category?
So I guess if I'm going back all the way, I kind of got an interest years ago in session beer brewing, and I kind of dove into that. And that was kind of my first foray into brewing style or brewing beers in this low gravity way. And an opportunity to work with Berkeley Yeast came up once I graduated from Siebel, and they basically were looking for somebody who had some background in NA brewing. And I happened to have done a project for a friend's brewery in Europe, and I was using some of the training that I got in school on that, and kind of experimenting in this new way. And I got to kind of play around with recipe formulation, and I was able to make something good, but I didn't like the yeast so much. The quality of that particular yeast. It was I won't name names, but it was an early NA yeast variety. And essentially, I was hired on the merits of that. So I came in to work on some new products that they were launching at Berkeley Yeast. So these are new yeast strains. And so they needed somebody who had some background in NA beer brewing. And I kind of dove in and fell in love with it. I got to experiment quite a bit. I was tasked with making, just something that represented the core flavor profile that we were looking for essentially to sell the yeast. So I created like a hoppy blonde, which is kind of like was bordering on IPA level. And that ended up being loved by everybody who tried it. And we would peddle that beer around to all the breweries to get them to kind of get acquainted with some of the new technologies that were out there. But a lot of people were saying, hey, this beer right here that you have in front of you, this is one of the best I've had. So that was some lights were going off that, this is an area that is so fresh right now. And I felt that it was lacking in full exploration. It still hasn't. We're still not there yet. There's nothing really written on this. In order to really be successful in this, you have to innovate. You have to do it on your own. And that was exciting to me.
I mean, I'm in the kind of what I'm hearing in between the lines is that there have been, can I say, thousands of years of brewing, and now we're doing something totally different in terms of the outcome.
That's right. That's
So,
right. It's really at the bleeding edge of, brewing, the history of brewing. We're always at the bleeding edge, but this is the newest bleeding edge,
and
is we're trying to discover how to do this well.
of course, that's all been fueled, or the wave is that people are looking for alternatives. They want to drink great beer, but they don't want to drink it with alcohol.
That's right. That's right. And that movement, I think, Europe is a little bit ahead of us in many ways in this. They've been, non-alcoholic beer has been pretty popular there for years, and they've found a way to integrate it into the beer culture, and they have use cases for it that everybody knows about, as a recovery drink, as something that you finish your night with, that kind of thing. Or if you just can't tolerate alcohol anymore, but you want to continue the thing that you always did, the thing that's so important to humans, which are the rituals. But you also, the best ones are brands that deliver as well. Like, it still should taste. It needs to have those flavors that everyone recognizes as beer.
I interviewed Vanessa, who's one of the founders of Tilden, a couple of years ago, and she made a comment that you just reminded me of, which is when people have an NA drink, they want it to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. They want it to have similar complexity, similar mouthfeel. And does alcohol have some contributing factor to all of that? So how do you create that richness in an NA beer?
That's a great question. Yes, alcohol is a major player in mouthfeel in beer. And so when you remove that alcohol, you are getting rid of some of the viscosity effects that alcohol lends itself to. And that seems strange because alcohol is lighter than water, and so you would think it would thin the beer out, but it has mouthfeel effects that, if you just took a beer and stripped out the alcohol and didn't paid no attention to what was remaining, you still wouldn't have something that is ready to go out into the market. And so these large breweries such as Heineken with their 0.0, I'm sure that the way they engineer that recipe is it's with the end product in mind, and you have to consider what are you going to do to replace that mouthfeel. A lot of that is, it's dextrins, it's some effect of that residual maltose that's in the beer. Um, yeah. So basically the end result beer is a different finishing gravity and it has lots of different specs. It doesn't look the same at all as a finished alcoholic beer, but the experience is the same. And so that's what you're going for, is trying to figure out where all the levels need to be so you strike that balance.
I think, my compliments and admiration that you were trained in two legendary places in Chicago and Munich. What were some of the philosophies that you came away with?
I mean, it's huge, really. I wanted to study there because I lived in Germany a long time ago. So a long time ago, I got stationed out there, and I was 18 at the time. And so my first beers that I drank were amazing German beers, lagers and Hefeweizen and things like that. Um, and that had the simplicity of those beers. Many of them follow the Reinheitsgebot. These are 4 ingredient beers. Nothing additive, nothing added, nothing different than they would have brewed those beers hundreds of years ago, just with modern equipment now. Um, and some of that beauty and the simplicity, it has always been a through line for me. I think some of the best beers are the simplest, and it's focusing on the little things such as fermentation, um, other mouthfeel effects, and raw ingredients, getting the raw ingredients absolutely correct. So it had a huge impact on me. The Germans think of beer in a different way, and I got the opportunity to learn from them. So
I mean, and then with that inspiration and your innate courage, I suppose, you decided you were going to start your own company.
I know, crazy.
And I love your focus, right? Your focus is on the Bohemian Golden. Tell us about that and why you decided to focus on that.
Yeah, so I first of all, I wanted to focus on something that I personally felt was missing from the NA craft market. When I go to the store, there's lots of great brands. Athletic does an amazing job. A lot of these larger craft NA brands are great. They're doing a great job. But what I was looking for was more, maybe it's because of my background, maybe it's because of living in Germany, maybe it's because of being a judge, but I wanted something that reflected the more traditional flavors in beer, without having to, resort to making a Frankenstein, experiment of, vacuum distillation and then putting a beer that you tore apart back together. And so I was looking for and finding that you could really get this quality of beer, with that adhered to style, that had the flavors that you expect in the style, so that you can pair it with food, and it hits your liking. Um, so I felt like some of those were just kind of missing, and I wanted uh, to address that. And lager as well, craft lager is ascendant right now, and people are very excited about, the rise or the re-rise of lagers. People are re-exploring this area, and I felt like that was missing in craft NA. And so, yeah.
I
And
mean,
basically I wanted a beer that, like, out the gate, if you're going to do something, that do it big on the first one, make something that appeals to everybody, the beer nerd to your grandma. Anybody picking up this beer should be able to appreciate it.
and I think the right term is sessionable, right?
Yes.
So you
Yeah.
can have more than one.
Yes. You can have more than one. You want more than one. When you're finished with it, you're ready for the next one.
That's the best. That's
Yeah.
truly the best. And so what, now you're on the journey, and what are some of the exciting things that are happening that you can share?
I recently I haven't signed exactly, but we're on the verge of signing with Mindful Distributors, which will be a partner of mine in the Bay Area. And they distribute all the way from Monterey, California, up to Sonoma County. And they are just really high quality people. They're very focused on having a portfolio that's all about quality. And when I talked with them and I poured beer for them, they really saw the same vision. They said, "We see what you're going after, and we think that this is it. We think that you will succeed in that area." And so they wanted to take me on as their first um, California-based NA brand. So I'm very super excited about that, and I have a meeting with them later this week.
I
So
mean,
very
and
happy.
that's really an ideal partnership when the distributor sees your vision. That's so difficult, I think, for any food or beverage brand to accomplish. I think sometimes people see the market potential, but they don't see the vision. And so I'm sure
Right.
you're very happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what are your thoughts? I know you went to a big competition recently just to check out what was going on. What was that experience like?
Yeah, we poured it at GABF, Great American Beer Festival. And so this was the first time pouring there, first time for Reveland. We had the beer at all of the NA stations, which were around the entire event. And we also had a booth, and we ran out of beer and got a lot of great feedback. It was excellent. And I brought a lot of beer. Like, there was a lot of cases that were brought. I think we went through 30 cases or something like that in a few days. So, of pours this big, little 1 ounce
Oh,
pours.
that's a lot of pours.
Yeah. But it was great. It was great getting out there and just mixing it up and, you know, meeting other people as well, meeting other NA brands, talking with them.
And what have been some of the most interesting, I guess, lessons or insights, on this journey so far?
Oh boy. I think one of the biggest surprises and insights, like for me, has been the humanity of it all. I think I always envisioned, getting into this industry and everyone is, I'm going to be, you know, everyone, no one has a bad day. Everyone does everything perfectly all the time in your mind. And then you realize, no, these are human beings and mistakes are made all over the place. And it's just everyone has to work together to get it done. And so that sort of back and forth on the human side, I don't know why I didn't think about that much, but it's been surprising and also kind of a good thing. You bond with your partners and you have things to talk about, mistakes, upsides, downsides, that kind of thing.
And Jason, I've been so impressed by your journey, but particularly for the stage you're at. You're already giving back. Let's talk a little bit about that. The 1% for the planet, and let's let the audience hear about what made you go that route. And that's just such an admirable way to go.
Well, going back many years, I had dreams a long time ago of opening a local craft brewery. That still may happen at some point for alcoholic beer. We'll see. But it was always important to me and my friends, and it was always talked about that if you're going to have a company, you should do right by your employees and you should do right by the environment. And I think that customers, that reflect those same values that value those same things, they are also attracted in a friendship type way. They prefer brands that are like that, and I prefer brands that are like that, and I shop with brands that do the same thing. So I would like to eventually be an S corp, and I would like to always adhere to donating that some portion of the profits of the company or sales of the company from the company to in this case 1% for the planet, which is an amazing organization. They are one of the only ones that you are essentially required to hit that 1% by sales. So other donation companies, their partners, they don't actually require it, and it's kind of like a promise that you will. But 1% says if you're not doing it, we don't want you putting the sign on there. So it just holds people to that accountability.
I do agree with you. If there's a brand that you are already going to love and they have, whether it's ethics or just kind of responsible, conscientious behavior, I think in today's economy, people are more attracted to brands like that.
I think so. I definitely think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this, with all this pressure, as an entrepreneur, and I'm sure you're doing so many different parts of the business, and you have different hats you're wearing. How does Jason Davis relax?
It's funny. It's a funny question. I still brew to relax. It's been a hobby forever. I continue to do that. Um, I spent a lot of time with the kids going to their sport, like I have a son that's in wrestling and I have one that is an amazing soccer player. And, I do a lot of things with those guys. And so there's a lot of family stuff. And that takes up a lot of my time. But when it's just me time to relax, I still love, writing a new recipe and making something. And I don't know if the joy in that will ever fade, but it hasn't. I still enjoy it quite a bit.
So walk me through this, or set the tone. You're writing a recipe and you're going to go brew it. Do you when you're sourcing ingredients, is there a philosophy for you when you're sourcing the ingredients for a brewing session? Do you play music while you're brewing, or you keep your mind quiet? How does it roll?
My philosophy is on every day except the brew day, I am in recipe mode where I plan that recipe out. And, if it's typically if it's a German style, I'm going to be focusing on German ingredients. If it's a, Belgian style, Belgian ingredients, yada, yada. But, I go through up until that time, I go through all of my knowledge and I might dig in a little bit more on the recipe formulation. But once I put that down, it's very relaxing. On brew day, all I am is a brewer. I don't change anything. Like whatever I've written down, I have to nail all those numbers. And then I have success on that day. And for some reason, that's very relaxing. It's kind of like, cathartic, I guess, or like doing the laundry or something. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's I'll speak to it from my similar approach with cooking. Like over the years I've become very ultra specific and I've been accused of being too intense when I'm cooking, which is probably true. It's like I'm very focused on what I'm going to put in there. I lay everything out ahead of time. And over the years I focused on getting better and better ingredients. It's like, no, if
Yes.
I'm not sure where something's coming from, I don't want to put it in, go to the farmer's market, that kind of thing. But I think the appeal is in it's a creative project with a beginning, a middle, and an end. And when you're
Hmm.
done, you're done. You get to taste it, you get to hang out, and then you move on to the next thing.
And everyone gets to enjoy it and you have a story. And yeah, I'm the same way. Food is a big part of me. I love cooking. I mean, I think most brewers are like that. They really enjoy the cooking process, and um, brewing is just like an extra this fermentation step, on top of that. But to get to that finished product and enjoy it is like I don't know, a huge dopamine surge or something. There's something in it. I love seeing people smile. They try something that you make and they go, "What? How did you do that?" And like you said, ingredients, they're enormously important. They make a huge cumulative effect on what comes downstream.
Yeah, I mean, I think the difference in a high quality salt, for example, and it's such a test, right? When you're cooking and you are just using salt, or salt and pepper maybe, and there's so much pressure on is like I'll just say cauliflower. Is the cauliflower fresh? Where did it come from? What kind of salt are you using?
Yeah.
How much salt are you using? If you're using olive oil, is it, bottom shelf olive oil or is it top shelf olive oil? And that pleasure when you're done, I can just see. I'm one of these days. I'm gonna come and I'm gonna have that beer with you when you're done. But and I know our boy John Simpson's gonna want to do that too. But that is the piece, right? Because and this is the point I was getting to is it's not just accomplishment, but you're competing against yourself in a way.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And you're exploring, and it's a creative outlet.
I love
Like,
it, exploring and discovery. So, what's next for you? What other things are you excited about? And what where can people find the beer?
so what's next right now is I'm starting to get to that point where the next releases are starting to come into view. I've gotten a lot of requests from some of my partners, some of the people that carry my beer, such as Humble Sea in California. Um, uh, Joe White of Humble Sea has asked me to kind of look a little bit more closely at some hoppy beers. He knows he's got his ear to the ground and knows exactly what customers are looking for, and he says that he thinks that I should release one. And I don't know exactly what that will be. I have a few contenders. I've worked actually. There's some recipes of mine for IPA, NA that are in the market right now from other breweries, and those were beers that I formulated while at Berkeley Yeast. So they partnered with Berkeley Yeast and got those recipes. Um, But I have some very good ideas for hoppy beers as well. And I've also gotten a request for dark lager. And I always heard that dark lager, you stay away from the dark beers because the sales are not quite great. It's like the dreaded dark beer in the brewery that gets like left on the side. Um, but I agree with them. And my this mindful distributors, they're looking forward to trying a dark lager. I told them I have a great NA Schwartz beer with lovely massive foam stand on top, and I showed them pictures, and they were like, "Gotta try it, gotta try it."
So I got this one more question for you. So I'm gonna chill myself a golden Bohemian, and what do you suggest I pair with it for food?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I think that some spicy food, some Asian food might be very good to pair with it. East Asian or Southeast Asian. Um,
Maybe like
I
a maybe like a green curry or
Yes, yeah. Maybe with some spice level a little bit up. I think it would pair well with some I mean, it pairs well with so many things, and that's part of the reason why I went with this particular style. It's just a really good all-around beer. It's light. It has, the flavors are there. They're prominent. They're there. It has hop presence. It has malt presence. It's not lacking in any way, and it pairs well with a lot of different foods. So I think it's really up to you. You should try it and see what you think. But I think that it's particularly good with spicy food, Mexican, Southeast Asian, South Asian.
awesome. Well, what a great conversation, Jason. I hope you come back on the show soon. This has been a great conversation. Your mix of scientific expertise, your sensory mastery, your education is exactly what's pushing this category forward. And hey, everyone, if you want to try Reveland's beers or learn more about what Jason is doing, head over to revelandbrewing.com. They're on Instagram. And of course, if you're a food or beverage brand looking to level up your social media, Firebelly is here to help you. Visit firebellymarketing.com to see how we support mission-driven brands. And thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the Firebelly Social Show. Jason Davis from Reveland, our guest today. Thank you so much one more time, Jason. You are a fantastic guest, and can't wait to see all the things you're going to do.
Thanks, Duncan.
Thanks for listening to the Firebelly Social Show. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.